This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. My name is Dr. Doug Smith, and this is our daily podcast. Sorry we're a few minutes late this morning. We had plenty of technical difficulties going around. My phone didn't want to cooperate first and foremost, but that's the way these things go. Glad you're with us. Hope you enjoyed our podcast yesterday. We are following up on the podcast from last Thursday. Last Thursday, we showed what we call the 4 graphs. And what we're doing now is we're going through the graphs one by one in some level of detail. This is incredibly important stuff. And this is especially important if you are someone who has ever been through opioid withdrawal and you're trying to explain to friends, family, loved ones, a spouse, whoever, parents, children, anybody, and you're trying to explain to them what you went through and what it was like, and also why you ended up going out and buying things and doing things you otherwise wouldn't have done. We had a whole bunch of people who simply would not have gone out and bought heroin, went out and bought heroin. A whole bunch of people who would not have gone out and bought fentanyl, went out and bought fentanyl. And a whole bunch of people who would not have gone out and bought pills, went out and bought pills. And the psychiatrist looked at that and said, aha, I know exactly what's going on. They're drug addicts. This is opioid addiction. And the psychiatrists, frankly, are wrong. They looked at the behavior and they came to the wrong conclusions. They made a diagnosis based upon only observations. And a diagnosis based upon only observations is possibly right, possibly not right. And in this case, it wasn't right. And so what we've tried to do here is we've tried to give voice to the voiceless. We built a couple of scales, questionnaires, that allowed people to describe in detail what they were feeling and what they were going through. Yesterday, we went through the neurotoxicity scale, the autonomic dysfunction scale, and we saw how sick people were and the type of sickness. And everybody had identical symptoms, yawning, nose running, eyes watering, pouring sweat, hair standing on end, stomach cramping. And we're not surprised that everybody had identical symptoms, because what we're finding in the lab is that everybody had identical genetic damage. So it would make sense that if the genetic damage is identical, that the symptoms are identical. But what we're going over today is why exactly did people go out and buy heroin? Why did they go out and buy fentanyl? Why did they go out and buy pills? Why did they just not do it? And boy, that's what they were told. Hey, it's all in your head. You're just an opioid addict. It's all in your head. Just don't go out and buy pills. Just don't do it. But yet, what drove them to go out and buy pills, buy fentanyl, and buy heroin? And the answer is it was the sickness. The sickness is something that just cannot be tolerated. And so what we wanted to point out today, okay, look at the graph. Look at the, you've got a red bar on the left and a little tiny blue bar on the right. That red bar on the left is opioid cravings while people are sick. And that blue bar on the right is opioid cravings when they're not sick. And as you can clearly see, when our people are sick, when they're feeling the symptoms of the genetic damage, when they're feeling the watery eyes, runny nose, pouring sweat, hair standing on end, and that feeling that you just can't stand it any longer. This has got to stop. I just can't stand it any longer. It's hard for people to describe, but that's what it comes down to. And you can see that when they're sick, those symptoms are very, very high, and they're craving an opioid because they have learned that if they take an opioid, they'll get better. And so they're craving an opioid. They're not craving an opioid to get high. This is not opioid addiction. They are not craving an opioid to get high. They're craving an opioid to stop the horrible sickness. And then you see when they do stop the horrible sickness, the opioid craving just completely goes away. It's gone. Look at the blue line. It's gone. Look at the 7 questions that go along with the opioid craving scale. There's 7 questions there. They're very similar, and you can criticize us for that. But we're trying to give voice to actually what actually happened. And when people are sick, they're craving an opioid like crazy. Everything's 4. When people are not sick, the opioid craving goes away completely. That is not addiction. That is not addiction. That is not people craving to get high. That is not addiction. What you're seeing there is the actual truth. And that's what you'll see and hear on this podcast. You will see and hear the truth. And the truth is our people are not opioid addicts. They never were. The truth is our people were genetically damaged. And once they're genetically damaged enough, when they try to stop taking the opioids, they become sick. It's a sickness unlike anything they've ever had before. The sickness is actually a loss of control of the organ and organ systems. That's why they're pouring sweat, their eyes water, their nose runs, they're yawning, their hair standing on end, their heart is pounding, their abdomen's cramping. And unfortunately, one of the organs that they lose control of is the adrenal gland. And you lose control of your adrenal gland, and that thing will kill you with a heart attack. And that is what happened in the opioid crisis. So people, take a look at that. Now, post this on your social media. Put it on everybody's social media you can. Get this video out there. Like and subscribe to us. We'll be back tomorrow, and we'll go over the third graph. And hopefully we won't have the technical difficulties that we had today, and we'll start right at one. Again, our apologies. We had some technical difficulties today, but we finally got it together. We finally got it going. My name is Dr. Doug Smith, and we thank you for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.